Nope, nope. We will go ahead and get this meeting started. This is our regularly scheduled committee of the whole meeting for the first Tuesday of the month at 6:30. And unlike the last meeting, I don't think we don't have time constraints tonight because at the last one, we had a meeting following this. So we should be good here.
So get comfy.
Yeah, so we'll go down the agenda in order. Mr. Garten, you placed financial recovery plan in committee of the whole in April, and we had since passed it, so I don't know if we're good.
Yep.
So we report that out.
Do we start with the budget at all?
We can, I mean, if you want.
I'm not trying to, one way or the other.
No, it's not on the agenda.
Okay.
All right, so moving next item is the new council orientation.
I
Any,
don't have anything for this.
okay, that's fine.
There's a lot going on. But I don't want to lose focus on it, so let me.
Do we have, I was thinking about it a little bit, because I think random things like the temperature control in this room, for example, we don't have the
Where the lights are.
Copier
copier
I
code.
still don't know the copier code.
Neither do I, since they changed it.
Could there be, I know the city obviously has like
There
a
you go.
server.
That's actually incredibly helpful.
Yeah. For my work, we use like a Teams thing where I just have a Word document with like all these codes and various things.
In
Is
our Outlook, there should be a OneNote, maybe?
going to Outlook.
Outlook typically comes with a OneNote where you can, maybe not in our case because we just use it as a host. It's not up here that we do have it. That's probably a question for Mr. Moore, but if there is a way where we can use some sort of cloud document hosting
Yeah, I didn't know if,
so that we can all collaboratively work on one document.
that would be good to ask to see if it's good to do. I just think like a Google Drive situation or a Teams or whatever.
Something like that.
Whatever, if the city uses something, for instance, that we can
Yeah.
get access to, then that'd be great. Because sometimes I'll think of something, like 2 days ago, I thought, oh, this would be good to add to new council member orientation. Do I remember where that is now? No, I don't.
For now, maybe just send me an email
Yeah.
when you have those thoughts.
Right.
But if there is some sort of hosting site that we're already using or some sort of drive or something,
I think you're correct.
that there is one, I would think there would have to be.
There's a, I believe, a council network drive,
Yeah.
but I don't know that you can get to it outside of,
This building. We don't
yes.
have like a VPN.
correct.
Should be accessible. You'd think they could make it accessible through the security of the city laptop.
Yes, but
We would need a VPN.
I don't believe we have that at this time because I had inquired about that when I was sending out meeting notifications and whether or not I needed to come into City Hall to take care of all of that because I knew where these documents were on the network drive, and the response was, we do not have that yet.
So maybe this is a,
Do we need confidentiality for 90, any of it? Like the computer, the copier code, yes,
Because
but
it would be a public record.
so the Google, right? Mhm.
If it was in committee, then it could be, like, you guys could work on it together in a committee, but if we had more than 4, then it would be a,
Or if you had majority of that committee,
Right.
I would have,
so
I think for now, the
perhaps here is a thought. We could have one committee of the whole meeting that is just dedicated to like workshopping this. Where we have like a whiteboard or some stickies or something where we can work through it. Is that a feasible, doable thing?
we can call if we want a special committee of the whole meeting for
I don't
that
think that
specific topic. I mean, we would
This needs
still,
to happen like in any, I don't, it's not a very
Not time
urgent
sensitive.
issue.
correct,
Yes.
correct. But it is something we would still post and advertise like a regular meeting. And that would be the only agenda item for that meeting. I mean, unless we have like the Q&A or we wanted to add other items on there. But yeah,
Maybe that's the best way for us to go about it while staying compliant with.
I mean, depending on what you like doing on Tuesday nights, there would always be the option, if you wanted to throw it an hour before a council meeting. The only thing with that is you're then locked into, if you get deep into discussion
Right.
or brainstorming, we're ending it at like 7:20.
We just had like a late committee of the whole, we could add it. I feel like if we had like a month where we didn't have a lot on the agenda.
Right. Well, and most of these items are going to stay in there anyway.
Yeah.
So
Okay. I feel like doing a designated meeting is probably the easiest way to go about it. I don't know that we need to schedule that right this minute, but
no, we can,
what we do need to schedule, it's not on the agenda, maybe I'm not allowed to do it. I need to schedule
that comes out at council. I mean,
but I need to schedule it before then.
correct. You can. The key, you can schedule it. I mean, technically, a committee meeting, if you want to schedule a committee meeting, you don't have to, you are not limited to only announcing it on the council floor. So
Okay.
you can, if you have coordinated with committee members a date and time that works, the sooner you can get that information, the date, the time, and the location, as well as the agenda items to the clerk of council's office, the sooner they can post that and get it advertised everywhere, that's fine. It is nice to announce it on council floor, but as chairperson of a committee, there is nothing that is restricting you from waiting until a council meeting to schedule and announce a committee meeting.
Okay.
I think at times it seems like that is easier because everybody is present and they can look at their calendars, but you're not limited to,
And sending one text at a time to individual people, that's what I'm gonna have to do, that's fine.
yes.
You could send a group text if it's just about scheduling a meeting.
Can
No
I?
other discussion.
Not discussing what is in the committee, but if you are coordinating a date and a time,
Okay.
and that's what that is limited to. Or if you want to go with the individual texts, that works as well. Or another option, if you don't, I'm assuming that everyone regularly checks city email. You could send it to all of the committee members, but blind copying so that when they reply back, it's not a reply to all, it's just replying back to you. And from there, you can then communicate out what the final date and time is.
Okay.
Master plan for the city. Our little sub-bullet of council member priorities. I don't know that I have everybody's 3 items. I have 2 individuals noted on, yes, I have yours and Candace's that I know.
I gave you mine.
All right, I'll do another email search. I did a search by priorities.
I'll double check.
These are the same ones we went over last time?
I don't know if we dove all the way
At the
in.
last committee of the whole meeting, we discussed all of them because I had not emailed them in, but gave them to you verbally.
All right, well, then that would also
I mean, I can
explain.
reissue via email if that is the way that you would like that information organized.
I kept that on here, but yeah, I will do a more in-depth search in my inbox, I tried keyword 3, top, and priorities, and all and separately, and those are the 2 that I came across.
I'll have to watch the recording from last time because I don't remember what I said.
All right, well, we won't jump down into the item A then. We can stick with just master plan for the city.
I feel like that's kind of connected to the survey that Sam and I were talking about. We met and started to pull together some ideas. Looks like SurveyMonkey's probably the platform to use, and I know that you had one, but I think I accidentally just re-upped it, which I didn't mean to do. So I think I also have it now.
Okay.
So we could do it through that one.
The nice thing about that is like it has different tiers. It's expensive, but I feel like at the nonprofit or governmental level, everything's always very expensive with this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Because they want to make money. So it has nice widgets and doohickeys and stuff to make the data look
Yeah.
nice.
So I have it. It looks like I can create a team. It looks like I should be able to have a couple people on there.
Okay.
Um,
And we narrowed it down to 10 questions?
I believe so.
Yes, we had talked about limiting it to 10 or maybe 15 if we also want to add like demographic information.
Yes.
So-
Which one, I feel like we met about this 9 years ago and I realized.
I know, it was
2
like-
weeks, but,
Well, Sam and
A
I
month.
met
It was a month ago.
about it.
well, Susan and I met
Oh, okay.
to narrow it down and that
Right.
was like less than a month ago and it feels
Feels
like
like forever.
years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember what we decided on. We found another city's survey that was a really good baseline kind of starting point that it encompassed a lot of what we were wanting to collect. And we liked the format of theirs because we weren't totally sure whether we wanted to do like rank your priorities or choose your tick 3 boxes of these. And theirs was kind of a mix based on like the format of the question. Let me see if I can pull it up. Because if I can't, I'll just send it to all of you.
And if you need help with that, I'm kind of our survey monkey guru at work.
Oh, yes.
So-
please.
You are the monkey? It's crazy.
Right. I go bananas for surveys.
I'm so sorry.
Was it the University? I don't think was the University Park one the one that we landed on, or was it the Loveland? Or
Oh, I really like the Loveland one.
I think that's the one we landed on. We liked the University Park one, but it was a little too open-ended for data collection's sake. It was very, here's a paragraph, and the Loveland one was more data friendly, which I think is what, for this purpose, what we need right out of the gate.
And one of the things, yeah, here it is, City of Loveland. They did one in 2022.
Will you just email that to all of us? We can all
Whoops.
pull it up. Oh, but one thing that we did like about the University Park one is that in the demographic collection area, you have the options of I live here, I work here, I own and operate a business here. And I do kind of like that to include business owners or people who are here every day because they work here. I feel like that's interesting input to also consider. Okay.
That's true.
Or would that be a check all that apply? Because,
True.
Yeah, because you could
Good.
live here and also
One.
correct.
own a business here.
That's a
When
good
it-
point.
When it comes to crafting the questions and the scale, I'm happy to help with that. I've got a background in writing qualitative research, so
Sweet.
Oh, I love
Yeah, I just.
quantitative, not qualitative, sorry. I do not like
the best and the most.
Yeah.
All right, sending it off, I think. No, why won't it send? What is it?
It's the Wi-Fi issues.
I think it is.
I'm not able to update my email right now.
Yeah, so it's probably just the Wi-Fi. But you got it.
All right, I've got
Ready.
it here.
Well, do we want to run through them verbally so folks can do?
All right, just sent it.
Oh, nice. Oh, beautiful.
And I think it might be really useful for us to take a look at the survey that was done by a community member a couple years ago. And there's also the, it got brought back up to the forefront with the records request with the Montgomery Road Plan, which is a suggestion. It has a bunch of ideas in it. Would be something else we should all review and take a look at. If there are recommendations that we feel, some things have already been completed, some things weren't appropriate, but there might be some things that we want to take advantage of.
Yeah, so this survey was 33 questions, which is obviously more than we were intending to, but a good chunk of those are demographic. And I don't, were we counting demographic questions in our goal for 10?
I would not.
I think
Yeah, otherwise it's just going to be all demographic.
That's true.
Right,
10
right.
demographic questions and nothing else.
And I would more than likely want to put all of the demographic questions on a separate page.
Okay,
So get all of those in there early and then dive into kind of the guts of all the information. And then even from there, we could almost put them in, we lump them together in different pages, different topics. So it doesn't seem like it's a constant scroll of all these questions.
I did like that they have like an illustrated map that says which one of these do you live in. The amount of people who don't know what ward they live in is pretty high, so I think having something like that included would be really helpful for people.
Well, and I think I'm throughout the idea of just putting the what did I say, nearest intersection.
Oh, sure.
Because the street, you couldn't put Williams. That obviously spans 3 wards. Montgomery Road is in all 4. If they put the nearest intersection, you could still,
But then that's us doing the labor rather than telling them, showing them the map and they can identify where they live, which would then also give them information about their own demographics.
sure.
So I like the idea of putting, and then it's less work for us if we're going to be the ones dealing with the data. I just want to mention the Loveland one, they've been doing it since 2006. So every year or two, they update it.
And I like that a lot of theirs are ranking. So they're like 1 to 10. How do you feel about this feature? How do you feel about this feature? Because my concern with open-ended questions is just going to be that the data collection is going to be tough. And I think maybe we can get more into those open-ended questions further down the line of planning, but as a first jump,
Sounds good.
All right. I see the map now as far as how they have that.
you think that would
Laid
work?
out.
I mean, that seems pretty doable for us. That graphic already exists.
Yeah, just entering it. That's a pretty easy thing for the SurveyMonkey stuff to do.
And really, those are, well, looking at the questions, it appears like it's more than 9. I think it's just the layout of it. Like, that's a lot.
9
That's a lot of
questions.
scrolling.
Oh, yeah, no, it's probably a good 15-minute survey.
Yeah.
This was the longer one that we looked at.
Yeah, so the thing that we liked about the University Park one is that it's very short, like a very brief. I think theirs was only 8 or 9 questions, but most of them were open-ended. So I think somewhere in the middle. But I feel,
Shoot that one.
I'm trying to find my notes for
Yeah, that'd be good.
Sending another one over in a sec. Just sent it out. So this was another one that was just from the very satisfied to very dissatisfied. And then the NA.
Oh, and
So
that's
that
not
was-
even the one that I have. Hold on. The one that I have.
It's good there's so many examples to look at. I mean, this is not a unique or
Right.
groundbreaking
We don't have
suggestion.
to reinvent the wheel here.
Yes.
We have a good basis to.
We have let everyone else make mistakes, and now we shall reap the rewards.
Yeah, we did kind of spend a lot of time Googling lots of different
We
surveys.
did. Okay, so Susan, this email is from you and it's coming back to you, but just so you have it fresh. This is the community vision plan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this was the one.
This is,
This was the one that we really liked.
yes, because it's brief. So 8 questions, and one of them is, would you do this again? So really 7 questions. But I do think we can't have this many paragraph responses.
Yeah.
So I think offering multiple choice or tick boxes or something as an alternative. I really do like the 3 words. I feel like that is one thing that I am open to leaving as an
What are the
open-ended.
3 words you'd use to describe your
Norwood,
community?
yeah. I think that that could be a good kind of guiding point because I think we'll see a lot of the same words over and over again anyway. I think that could be interesting to include.
Yeah. And I think we talked to John Moore, who did the survey, Move Norwood Forward, the survey, then he probably has some insights as well about what worked and what didn't.
Yeah. Because a lot of his were open-ended.
Yep. And yeah, he was just a guy doing it for
Yeah.
for funsies. So
And I think he combed through it and said, this many people mentioned streets, this many people mentioned safety, this many people. I don't know that we have the manpower for that, but it would be a great resource.
I think that would depend on whether or not you get 50
Or if we.
surveys or you get 4,000.
300. Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point. So do we have a date that we want to have this out by?
End of the summer?
Okay, that feels very doable.
It would be nice, outside the box thinking here, if we had something ready before the Norwood Day Parade and we could have a QR code and a float or something going down.
That's a big brain idea.
That is a big brain idea.
or give out candy with the QR code for now. That would immediately go in the trash.
Right.
Oh, man.
There'd be
Oh,
cars
anyways.
on the ground.
But I think that that's another important question is, do we want to do, obviously we can do some electronic with QR codes, but what about trying to mail some out? And just
Well,
select.
I will pick the Norwood Day Parade. Again, what is the percentage of people who are spectators at the parade who are Norwood residents? And walking, send somebody down each end of Montgomery Road either before or during the parade. Now,
With a QR code.
Or just
no, with the actual survey. And potentially check and see
Or like printouts of the survey?
printouts of the survey and find out the feasibility of dropping those as far as a drop box in with the water bills.
I don't see why that would be an issue.
seems reasonable. We could also do it at Norwood Day, like have a booth there. If people are going to be milling around, just go up and here's the QR code, or if you want to do it right now, here's a physical survey. That way, if you don't have a smartphone or you just don't want to forget it, just do it.
Does anyone know anything about the format of Norwood Day? Like, will there be booths now that it's,
I think they're still deciding.
Yeah.
okay, so maybe that decision will have to be made later, I guess, but
But typically they do have an auction, like a silent auction, and they have places like kids games. Like this is when it was at Coney, like kids games, silent auction. So there's people like a place that people are going that you could have someone sitting there, and we can ask the Norwood Business and Professional Women's Club if they would be willing to have us there.
because we also talked about sending a note home with the kiddos at school. So if we did have this finished by the end of summer, that could be like a back to school time sort of thing, assuming the school board is on board.
Mary Roden, I think, would be happy to let us send something out.
But
There's been
I would also be curious, and I don't know if this is one too many questions, but where did you find this survey? How did you get this survey?
I think we could include
For
that
us.
in demographic question.
So, a lot of things come home with kids at school that go right into our trash can.
Which I feel like is very valid, but I also think that it could be for a lot of families like the one way to get information guaranteed. You know what I mean?
You could expect a 10% response rate.
I think if you do it early in the year, when people are more likely to look into stuff, because there's a lot of beginning of the year stuff. If we can time it, if we get it done by end of summer, then it would go right in there. At least from what I've heard, it's a lot easier to pay attention at the beginning of the year than in the slog of November, December.
And if all we're sending home is a printout with a QR code or a link or something on it, the cost is fairly low.
Yeah.
So even if we do only see a 10% return, I feel like there's value in that.
Yeah. And if we're getting people that we wouldn't get to any other way, then that's really valuable.
And that was, I think, the idea with the sending it home with the students is that there, for a lot of people, that would be like the one way.
Right.
Goes to it.
I think another idea, if we're going to go with QR codes, hitting up some of the businesses.
And at the parks,
Right.
like with soccer, with baseball.
We
Maybe
can
we-
do what we did with a bunch of DEI stuff and the park stuff, is put QR codes in the park.
Could
that
we
ask
ask the chamber to reach out to businesses about putting a QR code up?
They have the master email list. They could probably,
Yeah, that's a pretty typical thing for
Forward.
Chamber of Commerce to do, send out surveys.
Yeah, it'd be great if they could send the survey out to their email list and then also send out let us know if you're interested in putting up a QR code and we'll have somebody bring it over. That way we could collect a lot of business owners as well.
get business owners, potentially those who are working and or living, or both working and living in the city. And then also kind of hitting up their customers as well, depending on what type of business it is.
Yeah.
All right, so that's more along the lines of item 5 here, right? Or that's in conjunction with master plan of the city?
Yeah, for me, I feel like I want the survey results to fold in with what we see as the priorities in helping to formulate the plan.
Yeah, we landed on the survey because we know what all of our priorities are, but we want to know, we don't want to build a master plan on our priorities. We want to
Correct.
build a master plan on everybody's priorities.
Right. And making sure that there's some alignment
Yeah.
there.
So,
I don't know if this probably falls under master plan. This is sort of a subsection of the master plan, and that is for us to be really thoughtful about what capital grant requests we want to make next year. I know that Emily and I did a bunch of craziness with some help with some other folks in administration to get out. I mean, how many was altogether maybe $10 million
Yeah.
with all the grants that we applied for? And the way grants work, it's not like we can say, give us a grant for $5 million to fix our streets.
Right.
That would be awesome. That doesn't exist. So we have to be really thoughtful about what projects are going to meet the appropriate criteria. So we need to have a better idea of when it's coming up next year. What do we need to have several ideas ready to go that we can then flesh out and put forward. So I think that needs to be folded into the master plan as well. And these are like big ticket items. These are between 800,000 and 3.5 million dollars. And you have to have some match. And so some things wouldn't be worth it because it would cost us more than it would be worth. So it really depends on the plan. It depends on the project. But there's money out there and we can get it, but we need to be more organized in getting it. And I would also consider getting some, looking at asking administration to look at potentially hiring outside folks to help us with it.
Yeah. I think we can use this type of survey to say like, hey, this is what people want to see. We know that we can get funding from these places, but we just don't have the time, resources, expertise to get it done. Here is what other cities are doing. Because like, people use grant writers, outside contractors. It doesn't have to be like a city employee that is a grant writer. There are many avenues by which smaller cities can get grant writing expertise. So I think having basically this as a way to kind of show the administration, like, this is what people want to see. I don't know if we'd have a way to fund all of these good things with just our money in any reasonable amount of time. And here's how other cities have gotten money. So, and this is what people want to see. This is what the people, look, they said they really like this. So,
But there's not a grant for grant writers.
real catch-22 there.
So maybe just action items. So when Susan and I met, I feel like one of the tough things was like narrowing it down to questions that took priority, not to give everyone homework, but how do we all feel about like sending in 5 questions? And I swear I'll send it on time. Or you can send them to me. I don't know what is the easiest solution here, but and then we can see where we all overlap, like where.
Well, do you want to just take a look at the University Park, the Community Vision Plan
I
survey?
mean, I guess we have time right now
And-
too. We can just talk about it.
Yeah.
And this is the one that's select all that apply. I live, I work, I own and operate. I'm an elected official. And then a couple open-ended questions, and then the priorities: economic development, public safety, parks and open space, housing, water and sewer, transportation, village services. So we might want to think about changing those focus areas. And then obviously the priorities that they have are, the town center area. Well, I guess we do have a town center.
Well, but I think we talked about instead of transit, because we don't really operate the transit
Yeah, we don't have transit.
as a city, instead of doing transportation roads, doing transportation biking and walking, or some alternative to car transportation. And then I feel like a lot of these are pretty relevant.
What do we want to know?
We want to know where the priorities for the residents, the workers, and the business owners lie in terms of what they want to see in our plan, in our projects.
Correct. I was specifically thinking of the biking, walking, transportation. What is it that you want to know about that specific?
This is just, where do you prioritize that? So in terms of like ranking your priorities of seeing development happen.
So not specific projects, but just like the idea of improving pedestrian and bicycle
people
infrastructure.
prioritize
Not
that?
specific this area, that area. Just like with economic development, it's not like I want it in this area. It's just like I think this is a higher priority than city services or something. It's just more money.
I mean, I'm okay with all of this, and I don't have anything to detract from it. I'm thinking more about what are the things that we think are priorities to fix in terms of organizational infrastructure and city infrastructure, more than I'm interested in a satisfaction survey. But I'm not stopping or interrupting the satisfaction survey. But I just have different questions.
I guess I don't think of it as a satisfaction, it's a priority.
The university park was entirely satisfied.
Well,
No, not the second one, the community vision plan, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah,
That's the
that,
last one she sent.
Okay.
And that's the one that has the open-ended questions about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and then it asks for folks' priorities. I mean, I think probably everyone would say fixing our streets are
Right.
the number one priority. That being said, okay, I can't do anything else about that today, but I've got a couple hours I can spend. What else do I want to spend my time on? So, but my priorities, in a good way, are different than your priorities, are different than Sam's priorities. But if we have a better sense of, oh, we didn't know that so many people are concerned about vacant buildings, that's not an issue in Norwood. But if so many people said that, I'm like, oh, vacant buildings, I hadn't noticed that, let me go take a look at that. So it can be informative in terms of how we organize our time.
and how we organize the master plan.
The master
My
plan.
vision for this, and I think that, to your point, including our internal organization structure, kind of our workflow, should also be incorporated into the master plan. But this is just to collect resident and business owners' priorities of what they believe we should be prioritizing.
Right, and I'm all for that. I just have different priorities that I'm interested in. So, I mean, I'm not telling you anything about this. My thoughts are on a different thing more than satisfaction and priorities.
And I think collectively that master plan is going to include that.
Yeah.
It isn't that those aren't going to be excluded from the master plan. But I think right now with community survey being one of the items on here, that's kind of where that attention is being drawn right now, but also understanding that, yeah, the priorities of council are.
So one of my thoughts on this is that, just like you said, people will say, well, the roads, and we're like, well, the roads are expensive. I think what the people in the city get is a load of hogwash about the roads. Like, oh, we're working on it. And I think from what I remember campaigning, I need to have an answer if I'm ever going to talk to citizens again about what are we doing about the roads. And maybe that is the number one priority that we all should be digging into. I know in the past there's been public meetings about it. There's been trying to get word out about a plan to let citizens know. That's where my mind is more focused on, is how do we take very unsexy things that make the public, make their life much more improved, but don't look like fancy things that people will write on a survey.
I think with the I know Vic had mentioned last time about working on a master plan for roads specifically. That could be part of this whole master plan thing. Some of it is just going to be like, I don't know.
I feel like
I'm thinking, yes.
Yeah.
Go
the
ahead.
master plan is, we're building a master plan so that we can address those issues, so that we have more of an answer, and so we have a tangible plan moving forward. Problem right now is that we've never had this plan, or we have but 50 years ago. So there is no tangible answer to give people. So the point of this whole survey is just a tool to help us build the master plan, which will provide steps forward that are referenceable, that are tangible, that are trackable for residents. So the community survey to me is just, it's not the priority of the master plan, it's just a tool to help us get the master plan started and ensure that we're including things in the plan that matter to people.
Yeah, and then for our personal stuff that we feel is important, that's something that we can just continue to work on. The mechanism by which that happens is something that I don't know. I think it's just talking to department heads and saying, hey, what is actually, what do you already have? You know, the fire department has a really great kind of outlook for the next 5-10 years. How are we going to make these capital improvements and these, you know, adding to our city government happen? So I think that might be a good step, is just talking to the people who are actually doing the stuff in the departments, writing down what they say, if they already have something, getting it from them, and just kind of starting to aggregate that.
That would be more of what I'm interested in terms of creating the master.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we all could do. We could like coordinate if there's one area you want to start. I mean, I feel like the fire department's kind of already there. They already have that information.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, like the building department or water department, there are probably items that they know have to happen that will be funded in question mark years, or here is a list, but there's not really a prioritization yet. So maybe getting that could be a next step, is just talking to people, getting the information they already have, and just trying to organize it in a way that makes it consistent for every part of the city.
See, that's what I think of as the heart of a master plan. I would love to get to the point where, like, on a master plan, I think the lighting future ordinance, if you guys haven't heard some of the talk in that committee, I think that would be something that we could put on a master plan, you know, to work on the aesthetics of Norwood and to ask people how much we should prioritize bike pathing or whatever. But I think we are privileged in that even though everything we see is public record, we have a little more peek behind the curtain as to see how things are operated. And that's where I think the city needs to see us focus, is knowing that there is a $10,000 expense coming up from, you know, the water department they would like to have in 2 years, whatever. So let's figure out a way. Right now in the city, there is no way that we can technically plan for that $10,000 in 2 years. Like and it's not a sexy thing, but how do you run an organization when we cannot decide what we're going to buy next year until it's just hopefully we cram it into that meeting?
Yeah,
Well, that's the purpose of the master plan, is to set those policies and set those goals.
So in addition to the survey stuff, I'd say that if there's somewhere you want to focus, like if you want to talk to the building department, I can talk to Public Works or whatever, and just say like, hey, email me, or let's get together and talk about what needs to happen in the next couple of years, in your opinion. Would that be good?
Well, I mean, I would like to create a plan for that if we're going to do that. The question was asked to me, what do I think about the survey?
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, like, if you guys are for the survey, go for it. I'm not stopping you.
Well, in that case, I can email you and we can try to coordinate something, because that's something that would be fun for me too. And that way we have people working on a community survey and we can work on kind of the more internal stuff. And I always like to talk to Clint and Mike and all the people that work in the city. So,
By the way, Clint and Ron Mosby are the only people that showed up for the
public hearing. Yeah.
And Clint, it's just another way that our people on the ground go above and beyond and show up after hours to just answer questions.
Yeah, I feel like the important part here is that like none of these things are mutually exclusive, and the idea is just that we don't want to start building a master plan with nothing and like pulling it out of thin air. So as much data as we can have to begin with, be it from the different city departments or from a community survey or whatever, starting with the most information possible, I feel is going to save us the most time and money. And so I think they're all equally as important, just so we have somewhere to begin.
I will say, having as much information as possible is not as positive as it sounds. I know the intent is to get as much feedback as possible, but there is a point where so much information stops progress. And so that's why I was trying to find 3 things. Let's find the 3 things that we can get action on. And so asking a satisfaction survey question only costs us money as a city. There's no question that we could ask that people are going to be like, oh, don't spend money. they're gonna ask for things that are gonna cost money. And maybe those things we should do, but we still have infrastructure gaps that we're trying to fill. And so all I'm saying is the satisfaction survey is just gonna give us projects to spend money.
I
don't
would
agree.
totally disagree. Because, and I think it's because we still lead. We still are the decision makers with that information. So it's still ours to prioritize, but I think it's helpful for us. And, you know, I mentioned on council months ago, I think we need to start having a conversation about a street levy for the roads. I don't know that that's the right answer. And the only way I would know if that's the right answer is if we ran the math. And I don't have that capacity. So I think we need the community's feedback. How bad are the roads for you? We all agree they're bad. We all agree. But would it be acceptable for you to pay a levy for that or not? Would that be financially burdensome to you or not?
Especially
I don't know those answers. So that's part of what I need. Because if it's, everyone is like, yes, I will pay, give me the levy, I'm down, let's do it. But if it's, well, it's going to increase your price by your homeowner's
Property tax.
property tax by this amount. Ooh, I can't do that. That's going to put a strain on my family. I'd rather just, you know, grit my teeth and put a lid on my coffee. So those are the sorts of information. Well, I need to know what your priorities are. How much do you want it? Because it's going to come with a cost.
So that I think is a very direct question. Let's talk about how much a priority the roads are to you.
Right.
What are your priorities is such an open-ended question.
Well, this isn't a what are your priorities. This is of these items, rank your priorities.
And for
So
me-
if everyone says roads are your priority, then let's talk about roads. If nobody says roads are your priority, which I would be surprised, then that gives us information as well. But we're not asking what projects do you want done. We're saying, where are your priorities? Are parks your number one priority? Or is housing your number one priority? Is economic development more important to you than open spaces?
I think since we know that roads are going to be a high priority, that could be a question on there. Is like, are you willing, like, here is a mechanism by which we might be able to increase the rate at which roads are paved, will be able to increase the rate at which roads are paved. Here's how much it would cost. Would you support this or not? Period.
I think that's
That would be really interesting. I think that would be a very interesting question for me because I don't
think that's a
know.
question we would ask after.
Yes.
That feels like a down the road.
The importance of a survey right now is not to gauge satisfaction. It is because if we are building a master plan based on the priorities of the people in this room, then we are in a bubble. We are just screaming into a void. And my personal opinions on what I would like, I'm one person who lives in Norwood. I want to know what people who pay taxes here, what people who vote here, what people who send their kids to school here, I want to know where their priorities lie so that we can, and I'm not speaking on like an individual level, but largely having some sort of tangible feedback in terms of where everyone would like to see the city headed so that we can prioritize those items in our master plan. I don't mean for it to say, here's 52 new projects that now everyone expects to get done, but just, we know that we're going to have to spend money on these things. Ultimately, what do people feel is most important to spend that money on first? Not, here's a project that we're going to do immediately based on this survey, just how much are we willing to dedicate in terms of time and resources and energy to this thing versus this thing? Because I care a lot about walkability. Maybe most people in Norwood don't care a lot about walkability. And we won't know that unless we ask. And I just think it's short-sighted for us to only listen to what we have to say and what our priorities are. I would like to know the priorities of people who live here and work here and choose to open businesses here.
So, to that end, I'm drafting a whole bunch of emails just so I remember to send them, like to you, and I'm drafting one to Clint. So I think just meet up and be like, hey, what's going on? This sounds So she'll like, hey, what's going on? What do you guys want money for in public works?
I feel like we should give them the same survey. What do you see as the strengths? What do you see as the
Oh, yeah.
challenges?
That would be
What do you
great.
see as the-
And I think, we could give them basically the same survey, but have theirs be more open-ended because it's just like a couple people and they get to do the actual stuff. So instead of having like specific things, say like, what are the projects that are coming up that we need to happen? And that would be a great way to synthesize kind of the two sides of everything. And also, again, I just like hearing about stuff in the city. I think it's interesting. And if people have questions from outside, it gives me more information to give them. So
I think is there some kind of meeting we could have where we maybe split up council in a couple of smaller groups or whatever, where we have like little luncheons with city employees to get feedback? Because, knowing, like, for instance, I talked to one of the, Josh, one of the maintenance guys, and I brought this up at a meeting a couple of months ago. He was trying to turn on the Norwood soccer water at Doral Field, and I mean, he shouldn't have to do that. It's outside of his hours. It's asking him to go above and beyond, and of course, he is going above and beyond. He lives here, but he has to go over there and really turn on the water, then drain the water, or turn it off, then drain it to make sure that it's not going to freeze. These weird months, and so there's just weird little things that I think that's what I would be really interested in, because that's, I think, going to help with work, is this guy who goes and maintains it, and I'd like to know what he thinks about it too.
yeah, I think that would be a great way. We could have lunchtime chat. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a snappy thing.
Or send this to the staff.
Oh yeah, send this.
I mean, that, in my mind, that's what this is going to staff,
Yeah.
city officials,
And then
residents, business owners.
And then in addition, we as individuals can like get the really concrete kind of like stuff that can never really be addressed by a survey, just because it's like the soccer stuff. Like you would never ask anything about water at a soccer field on a survey. How often are you turning on water outside of work hours? But that'd be great. And this is kind of like, hey, here's this kind of higher level thing, but also what's your day-to-day frustrations or what is really coming down? So both, yes. Anyway, that would be something maybe we could do once we get more, like, get the survey kind of done-ish and send it out to these folks. And then in addition, email them saying, hey, you're going to get the survey, but I really want to meet with you and some of the guys or the ladies in this department and just see what is frustrating for you.
A local legislature lunch and learn.
Oh, God.
I love the alliteration.
Yes, I was trying to think of something alliterative and fun, and you beat me to it, and that's why you're the president.
Right.
For the sake of progress in our goals here, would it be okay to ask two of us to volunteer to create a draft survey and bring it back to the next?
I think that's what Susan and I are planning on doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that I think I could give positive, constructive feedback on. If I see something, I could say, "Look, this word or this question is great or bad."
We thought we'd be done by now.
Wow. Are you saying that something in government
Casting
is
those
taking
sentences.
longer than
bit, yeah.
you thought? That's crazy. That's never happened before, ever.
So would we look at, I don't know, just to pick a date, June 30th as the deadline to have the survey
Feels very reasonable.
ready?
Yeah.
That way,
That feels reasonable.
if we have any tweaking that needs to be done prior to the parade, we can have everything set to go. That gives weeks to have QR codes printed wherever we want to put them, email
Check the
distribution
QR.
and everything else.
Can we move that to?
What?
Can we move that to like July 7th? If everyone's still comfortable with that.
If that's,
I mean,
as long as
that
it's
or
Norwood Day.
we could,
Norwood Day's not till the end of July, right?
right, we could have that as one of the main items for the July 2nd committee of the whole meeting.
The only, yeah, that would be great. July 2nd feels very nice. Any extra time that we could have would be fantastic because I am on the board of directors for Cincinnati Pride, and that does suck up a lot of my time.
Your
in the month of June. That's crazy. It is wild. This is crunch
Are you
time.
saying Pride Month is busy?
Do what?
I can't believe Pride Month is so busy for the Pride Board.
It's
You guys
fine.
should just be done with it.
I know, we should just be finished already.
What's the point of Pride Month if you don't have someone else come in and do your work for you? That seems like a polite thing to do.
That's a hot take.
So I put for the July 2nd, this is one of the things I'll report out in our minutes. July 2nd Committee of the Whole meeting, we'll utilize that to focus / finalize the survey.
Yep.
I
And then,
appreciate the extension, Mr.
Hey, not a problem.
but next month we'll have like kind of a rough draft-ish type of thing.
We can absolutely do rough draft. Yeah.
Sounds great. And that'll give me time to.
Do you still want us to send in questions that you want?
If you have
Or-
some that are important to you, that are close to your heart, that would certainly help with drafting. If that,
Sure, it's in there.
if that does not matter a ton to you, then don't stress about it.
And if everyone sends the same like questions in, then that's a really.
Yeah, then
Good
we will know that
indication.
those
It's almost
need
like a
to be
survey.
included.
It's almost sort of survey.
It's a survey about a
Oh
survey.
my god. Oh my god, it's a meta survey. Oh god. Going
Not to
down the
get
rabbit
too
hole.
meta here, but
Are we done with the survey?
I think we're done with the survey.
Should we say survey one more time?
No. That was the shenanigans.
Yeah, we're not, there's no vote on that one. Standard operating procedures for council.
That was a you thing.
That was what?
That was a you thing.
I think it was.
Was that a me thing?
We were gonna add the attendance expectation.
Yeah. Like, I think that might go into kind of the new council type of stuff,
Orientation.
like orientation of like
How are
how
we supposed to meet? So sorry.
how do we decide whether attendance is excused or not excused?
Right, what's the process? Who do you notify? How do you notify? When do you notify them? All that stuff.
Yeah, notification times. And then some of it was just like about the subcommittees, like how do you report out? What is reporting out and what needs to be reported out versus like what is just like in there as a discussion item.
These very much fall under the orientation.
Yes.
Because we discussed having a portion of it really go in depth on SOPs.
Yeah,
And so just what did we feel needed in SOP?
yeah. So I think that might have been kind of a carryover from before
Do we
talked
want
about
to
orientation.
wrap that up into a meeting just about the orientation? Or do we want to talk about it now?
We can schedule them however.
I would love for us to find an orientation guide or soap that is from a different community and just rewrite it. Like look through and is it the same? Is it different? It feels like that would be,
We can look at other statutory cities in Ohio, and surely they'd be about the same.
Folks who I know who are
Similar size.
Yeah, of similar size. Yeah.
folks who I know who sit on councils in similar sized cities and villages and townships and things. A lot of them also don't have this.
I was going to say, I thought that came up is that was a realization is we're not alone in
No.
this.
Yay!
It is not just us who just throws
I've also
you.
heard that.
Yeah, and so I don't know how much will be readily available in terms of like comp shopping this document, but we could
I
certainly
found
look.
one from, I sent it to Mr. Skelly,
We can,
from the city of
Omro?
Omro, Wisconsin.
Ah, of course,
Ouch,
Omro.
steady.
I love that place.
But it's a very good one.
So we could look at it.
Yep.
And they have their council meetings on the same day and time, so I feel like
All right, I'm
it
gonna.
clearly
It's
must
basically
be.
a
It's Kismet.
Now they're only 3,500 people, but it's okay.
Well, I
Oh.
also found one from Washington, Missouri.
I have a very relevant question for standard operating procedure, just as for Mr. Gears. If within a meeting, especially if it goes longer, you need to take a break. I think I asked you,
You
could
can make
just
a
like
motion for a recess.
make a motion for a recess? Okay, cool. And if you just need to go to the bathroom or whatever, you can just leave. like say, hey, I gotta go, I'll be back, or is it more better to do a formal recess for that kind of stuff?
I mean, if you need to step out, I just need for the purpose of a council meeting
Okay.
for minutes,
Right, cool.
because any votes that take place,
Absolutely.
I would have to acknowledge, whenever Mrs. Franzen has left council chambers.
Okay.
That would then get noted in the minutes. And then when you get back, Mrs. Franzen has returned to council chambers. Because the way the minutes are written, where it says all members present voting, however
yeah, so
that
you
is
want to say
written,
you're not there
it
for
needs
that.
to acknowledge whether or not you were actually present for that vote or not. So if it falls within when you left and when you came back, obviously you were not a voting member at that time. So it would just have to be acknowledged that you exited, when you exit council chambers and when you return back to council chambers.
Yeah, and obviously, if that would happen, I'm sure all of us would try to leave at a time that was not in the middle of voting, but sometimes that does not happen. I'm just trying to think.
Right.
If we request a recess, do we need to vote on it?
That's
Or
what I
can we
was gonna
just
ask.
request?
And I did not bring mine.
I think
I
it
didn't
is
bring
like
my rules with me tonight.
I think I remember reading this where you make a motion to do a 5-minute recess,
Yes.
and then you vote.
It's a quick vote.
Yeah, it's a quick vote, and then you just
And you could specify the time. So
Part of
council
the
is
meeting,
going
but I
to,
do like to know.
yeah.
yes, council will take a 15, 20-minute, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Second vote, council then takes a recess.
Right. Yeah, because you don't want to. Obviously, you wouldn't have like a discussion about whether we take a recess or not. It would just be a
Correct.
thing. Let's discuss this recess.
I mean, is there any confidentiality concerns about going to the bathroom in the middle of a meeting?
What do you mean?
Like, we,
You mean two members of council going and having a
Yeah.
discussion?
I mean,
One bathroom visit at a time. Take the
Right.
whole
just
pass.
saying.
I
We
guess.
can make sure we do it in a
I'm-
single spot.
We're not proctoring.
I guess as
Right.
I got
If Jeff has the hall pass right now.
the
When he
broomstick.
gets back.
Broomstick
we go.
general. Yeah.
Just
So-
just wanted to ask.
No, it's good to know because then the appearance of even if it's not in reality,
We want to maintain
you
propriety.
could still just be like, hey, only one person can leave at a time, and then you're on camera or you're there, and everyone sees you. They come. I don't know. Like this is all kind of like
We
just
can
in
use the
case.
bathrooms on different floors.
Just because it's never.
You
come
left
up.
with the notebook, but you didn't come back with it.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like last time, I'm like I was getting at the end of my bladders.
Once we hit that like 10 o'clock point, I need to move my legs around.
Yeah.
I'm over here like spinning and twisting and getting antsy.
Now, during discussion, before, if we have ended discussion on one item before jumping into another one, if it is 10 o'clock and motion to take a recess, specify the time, we can vote on it, and then, yeah.
Awesome. It's good to know. I just figured I'd ask
Yes.
that before
No,
the
it's
next
a good-
council
We
meeting.
should put it in the
Yeah.
SOP.
Yeah.
Yes.
So speaking of, I just sent you all Washington, Missouri's, not to bring things back together, or maybe it's a nice thing. They include, which I like, their city organizational chart, which I think is really interesting. They also have like a contact sheet. They also have the Washington vision and city council goals. I kind of like that, but I fear we would need a master plan in order to define those things. But they talk about like an order of regular meeting agenda. They go over a lot of the Robert's Rules of Order. They talk a lot about the different, I kind of like the format. If you scroll quite a ways down, they go into both the offices and the boards and commissions.
Oh yeah, like the planning and zoning commission.
Yeah, so like on page 20, there's boards and commissions, and it talks about like what the board is, members and organization, meetings and reports, powers and duties, and really breaks down staff support, what authority do they have. I think that is really helpful as like what an outline could look like for this. Like the Board of Appeals only has special meetings when necessary.
Yeah, that would be really useful as a
Yeah.
document, not just for council members, but assuming this is published, just for members of the public. 'Cause
Right.
I know the BZA. I knew the BZA was a thing, but I never had to interface with it. So
And knowing like which committees are made up of council members versus which boards have residential members and which-
Appointments.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting too.
We could even include like if they have terms when they're ending,
Yeah.
or if there are open. Well, that's probably more.
But they have that at the beginning,
updates.
like who's currently, which I don't think we need to include names, but
Right.
like we could just put the positions and when their next election year is, when their term expires. This seems like a really nice outline, and I think there's more that we could include, but in terms of like the way this is formatted, I think it's really helpful. They also have a City of Washington key calendar events. Nice to include. They have like
Norwood
election day. We could put Norwood Day. We could put the yard sales. We could put.
You'll also notice in the month of May that they have personal financial disclosure statement due to the Ethics Commission, which our deadline is coming up
15th. I just
well.
completed mine. Not to brag.
if you have not already.
Yeah,
completed
if
that.
nothing's really changed from last year for most of us, it's just reviewing, and then for you guys, it'll be entering it. But I don't know if you guys have looked at it or done it yet.
You have to do one before you get elected.
Correct.
Okay, so
So I did that one, where you put in like your mortgage and.
yeah, your mortgage,
whatever
your
else.
your credit cards, and if you have a business, whatever. So
Well, take some time over the next little while to read over this and see what your thoughts are.
this looks good.
I think very nice.
I like it.
Very helpful. What's next on our agenda?
Q&A,
Q&A.
which I skipped ahead and did a Q, and I got an A.
And my QB, when would y'all like to have a committee meeting?
I would love to A that. Sorry. That's,
We can do it off the record. That's fine. Just
I mean, if you want to run through your list of whatever committee meetings are coming up for the next month, and,
we can schedule one if that's okay with you.
I mean, yeah, we're not taking any action here.
We're not, and I won't even
But-
tell you why we need to have it because it's not on the agenda. But we do need to have one. The sooner the better.
I'm free any evening this week, anytime after about 5:30 or 6.
I think I have the same availability.
I think I have opposing availability. Unless we do like 9 p.m. Which feels very late.
Would an earlier time work? And if so, how early?
I can do any time in the morning, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then I can do any time Monday or Tuesday. Not anytime Tuesday, but I could do
Right now I have
Tuesday, except not.
Thursdays, right now I do have morning availability because my students haven't started, so I just kind of set my own schedule right now. So
Thursday?
Thursday, we can't do Wednesday because it's 24-hour notice
Correct.
time. So
Correct.
Thursday would probably be the earliest.
Which would mean the agenda would have to go out tomorrow.
Yes.
There's a tight ask from Angela.
The agenda for a committee meeting, that's not too bad.
It's also a one-item agenda, so it's not super lengthy.
If you send it tonight, I mean, then it'll be in her inbox as soon
I'll
as.
send Candace a text
Okay.
because she needs to sign off on it too. But are you available Thursday morning?
Wait, economic? This is economic development, or economic small business.
It's
Et cetera.
the four of us.
I'm not on that one? No.
Used to be.
It used to be.
I
Yes.
think it's Candace.
It is Candace.
She's our missing
You'll
piece here.
also want to make sure that there is not something already going on in council chambers because it is during the day. So
I can check that right now because the calendar is like right here.
meeting location would need to be confirmed as well.
On the calendar, it does not look like council chambers is in, has anything scheduled on the 9th. But yeah, maybe checking with city, like with Sharon or whatever.
Right.
In case there's something that's not scheduled that's informal. But yeah, I can do any time Thursday morning. As long as I know tomorrow, I'll just plan my day around it.
Okay, I sent Candace a text, so as soon as I hear back, formal yes or no.
And it's just
I will email
the one
you.
thing.
Okay. It's just one agenda item, so it should not be a very lengthy meeting unless there is a lot to say about it.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I am trying to learn my procedures.
I have not banged you yet. I've
Yet.
had a couple, Mr. Gurdon.
Oh, phrasing, man. Phrasing.
I mean, you would be within your rights to do that. Just that I'm trying. Could we put on the committee of the whole agenda as like on the Q&A right before it or after any committee meetings planned? So that's just a constant question that we can bring up. Is that worth it or not?
I would love to see every committee ultimately have a standing meeting. Is that wild?
There's sometimes it may not be.
Could we have a standing meeting and then the potential to cancel by a certain amount of days beforehand? Is that?
You can. I mean, you do have to provide notice before canceling. So, yeah. If
I feel like a couple of years ago when we were first getting on council, we talked about the benefits and drawbacks of standing committees. I think at the time we had just were like, well, let's just do it as we go.
I also think several years ago there were a lot of there were more committees.
There were more committees also. So having fewer committees that meet more regularly might be a little more feasible now than we had like 3 or 4 extra committees to deal with then. So maybe we could talk about that next time. It's just like, okay, we've had time to kind of think about this and
Right.
cogitate on it. And that can be an agenda item of like committee meetings just in general. Talk about whether we want to do a standing meeting for some of them or just what things are coming down the pike that need to be met with.
I feel like we're kind of scheduling them not on a dime, but I feel like I think when we do it as needed.
Yes.
I think there is a benefit to that, because if someone has something they need done urgently, like,
Well, and speaking as someone who was the clerk of council and for like a 6-month period over the previous 2 years was also the secretary to the clerk of council.
Wow.
Getting more notice ahead of time is very greatly appreciated for sending out the notifications to everybody.
Which the frustrating part is like, and I think this is really unique to the Economic Development Committee, but I get sent an email that says, is there any way you can do this week? And that is like short turnaround to get everybody on board for a scheduled time and
Right.
get something out to Angela, and it's not on the weekends, hopefully, and.
Yeah, I mean, I can, I guess I'm in the process of volunteering. I can send out the full email and can throw the committee agenda together. If it is on a weekend and it needs to be sent out to meet that deadline, as long as I'm around and available, because I can jump into the office and throw that together.
I still don't have a key to the mail room, so.
I'm waiting for the official record.
This is committee of the whole.
Okay.
Yeah, it's-
It's the Outback Steakhouse, baby. No rules.
That's just right.
Mr. Scully, since you're here, can I put you on the spot? I think like my second day, like January 2nd or 3rd or whatever, your office had to kind of rush through a CRA because I think we had a council meeting coming up and you needed to get everything done. I'm
It was 2
with,
days in.
yeah.
That we got sworn in on a Monday, that happened on a Wednesday.
So I think there is a need for this in our city for us to be responsive quickly, and I also think we do it too much. So where's the happy middle?
Yeah. It really comes down to, sometimes it's a case by case, whether that business owner or the applicant was already waiting or there was other interruptions and potentially caused by us collectively. And now we're trying to get it done because there's other pertinent issues. More importantly, I would say for this body or for council, getting back to, as you were talking about tonight, standard operating procedures. So the people behind you, the clerk, Angela, they reasonably need X amount of time to look at something, and probably even more if it requires a public hearing or whatever. So again, I had a discussion with her on something related with that where some documents went missing. So it's important to provide that single point of contact and that gatekeeper, for lack of a better word, to control, okay, this is way too hasty and it can't be done because of these things. And essentially, that would be on me or my problem because I would have failed to perceive what the issues are. So I think, looking back, how much time do you guys need to thoroughly vet something or review it? Like if you have a big decision, you need your agenda package, Friday before the Tuesday at the very least, maybe even more. So I would say reverse engineering in terms of what you need, what the clerk needs, and then figure out, okay, minimally, here's what it should be. So answering your question for the CRA, it doesn't need to have a public hearing or anything of that sort. It's more queuing it up for the next available council because you guys subcommittee has to review it first, then on to thing. That could be maybe allotted, a 10-day window to satisfy everyone involved. But something like a zoning ordinance amendment, well, that needs to be at least queued up 35 days or 40 days to give the clerk sufficient time to vet it, review it, get the hearing scheduled, and then queue it up eventually for a council meeting.
What would the implications be to you and people that you work around and with if we said the economic committee just had a monthly meeting?
Yeah, that would be fine because whether you make it or not, it's that time. And then, again, look at the available calendar and kind of nicely do it maybe 1 week before a council. Council meets twice. So even that sometimes, sometimes you have two councils. One is strictly for internal council business, yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. Other council meetings are more of a committee of whole where you discuss things and try to resolve it. So that's something I'm even trying to learn because I think you guys operate on both council meetings, can be done for business, public hearings, or whatever needs to get done. But let's say circling back, in fairness to everyone, good communication, the leadership, transparency, how things are, like I would say, good decision making. So something like that, a CRA is fairly, I don't want to say Mickey Mouse, but it's in a lower status. I think in that case, it was more, hey, these people have been waiting and we need to really push it through. But again, it's ultimately contingent on the person who is wanting it. So whether it's me, Catherine Fitzgerald, it could be something from Noah Powers. It's on them to convince maybe the clerk saying, hey, this is really important. How can I work with you? And then in fairness to you guys, hey, can you please schedule a meeting?
Yeah.
But having it on a regular monthly or something would probably save everyone frustration.
That's like kind of my thought process with having a standing monthly meeting is that if anyone does need a CRA push through, they know when the next time is that we're meeting ahead of time.
Yeah.
They know we always meet this time. This is when it's going to get addressed. And that way we're not scrambling to like put one together right away. And then people can plan far ahead out. So if they know like, oh, well, if this gets approved sometime in June, here's when the Economic Development Committee is going to meet in June. And I can expect not to have it finished until then.
That makes
I
sense.
think if like when the planning commission meets and you try to schedule yours 2 weeks after that, that's kind of a fair balance to where it's kind of in between the next. That would be the minimum, in my opinion anyway, looking on a calendar, probably the shortest distance between the next potential meeting. And then you have a council meeting in there somewhere as well. Most of the public hearings, we're looking at a minimum of 30-day advertising so that, we'd be looking at like 45 days probably from start to finish to where an item is advertised through to whenever that meeting is taking place. Kind of like the one with the food trucks. So that's going to be the end of the
end of May. Right?
end of May, the last meeting in May. But we had to make sure that was advertised.
So
Lo-
if we did a standing meeting for the Economic Development Committee, would that be something we would just like announce one time in a council meeting, or would it still need to be like every month addressed?
So I don't believe that at the last council meeting, I announced that we were having the committee of the whole meeting.
He did not.
This,
But what would the procedure be on that?
you would announce that it is a standing meeting so that it's confirmed it is a standing meeting. That way Angela can put that on the calendar so that we know. The key there is just making sure that your posting is sent out ahead of time, which indirectly serves as that formal announcement for the meeting.
And if we were to set a date where, like, if 3 business days before the meeting, we had no agenda items, we would choose to cancel, would that process look the same? We would just let Angela know that we were just choosing to cancel and notice needed to go out?
Yes.
Okay.
That makes sense.
That does make
Yeah.
sense.
And Candace did the same with the finance committee where we just had a standing meeting. So if she has any insight, she'd probably be willing to share. Yeah.
Not that we would never have anything in committee of the whole, but same would
Sure.
stand for this. You know, if we had either no items to discuss, or if I knew that first meeting in July, we don't have enough here for a quorum because that's the week of 4th of July, we would advertise, basically announce that standing meeting is canceled. Just like we would announce if a council meeting is canceled. It's regularly scheduled. It's a standing meeting the second and fourth Tuesday. We would still announce if it is not taking place for anyone who is under the assumption that that meeting is still going on.
Like we do for the Norwood Day Parade. Day. Yeah.
Correct.
Great. Thanks. Cool. This is all very helpful information, in my opinion.
I'm wondering if it might be helpful to add on to what you said about the committee meetings, if people wanted to share the things that they were currently working on, if that would be helpful or not.
So here, just
Not allowed.
no, I'm not saying that. Not to say I am trying to make council meetings longer than what they already are, but when reporting out, when you're reading your committee report, because technically in the minutes, the only thing that's being noted at that time is that the committee report was accepted. So whatever was discussed in that committee isn't being noted in the minutes. If you want to have further discussion or elaborate on anything that took place in that committee meeting, that would probably be the best time, as opposed to bringing it up under new business or old business. So, yeah, if you have pick your committee, the committee report is read, motion to accept, there's a second, at that point, discussion, that's where, either any member of the committee can have a discussion about what was discussed, or that could potentially open up the floor for any member of council who isn't part of that committee to throw questions out there for further details about what was discussed in the committee.
Sounds good.
Now, that doesn't mean this next meeting, we have like 45-minute long discussions
And yet,
there better not be under committee of the whole, because we've already talked all of this through.
cool.
All right. Anything else? Anything else under Q&A?
No.
All right. Then we are good to go here, and I will go ahead and close this meeting, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you,
This is
Steve.
not, good, yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't city business, but you guys need to look up College Corner, Ohio.